Perhaps you have felt this before. Your heart racing, hands trembling, mind spinning, triggered by a harsh word, an unexpected message, or an unforeseen situation. In that instant, it feels as if you are about to lose control, and everything seems to collapse because of one small detail. Yet the truth is, it is not the situation that defines who you are, but the way you preserve your calm that shapes your destiny. The ancients reminded us that we cannot control the wind, but we can set our sails. Calm is the same. It does not come from hoping the world will fall silent, but from learning to steady the mind against its storms. In every breath, in every moment, we hold the power to choose, to react impulsively, or to respond with clarity. When we turn inward, instead of being dragged outward, we begin to live with intention and direction. And it is here that the journey into the strength of calm begins. 1. Calmness, a skill, not a gift. Many still believe calmness is an inborn trait, like eye color or height, something the lucky few are granted while others are not. This belief makes it easy to accept anger, impulsiveness, or anxiety as unchangeable parts of oneself. But the truth is the opposite. Calmness is not a miraculous gift handed to a select few. It is a skill, a mental muscle that can be trained and strengthened. Just as the body grows stronger with regular exercise, the mind grows steadier when disciplined through every reaction, every thought, and every small decision of daily life. Think of someone once quick to erupt, impatient in conversation or at work. If that person learns to observe their emotions instead of being ruled by them, learns to pause and breathe deeply instead of striking back at once, in time they become transformed. The wonder does not lie in altering their nature, but in realizing calmness is never out of reach. It lives in the small choices made each day. Each time they choose silence over a pointless argument, listening over interruption, patience over irritation, they are strengthening their inner muscle. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that it is not events that disturb us, but the judgments we attach to them that determine peace or turmoil in the mind. He understood that while we cannot control all that happens, we can always govern our response. The same truth applies to us today. In a turbulent world, you cannot block every pressure, every difficulty, or every sudden shock. But you can learn to keep your mind from being carried away by the chaos. And that comes not by chance, but by training. When you view calmness as a skill, you stop waiting for life to quiet down before feeling at ease. Instead, you use the disorder itself as practice. Traffic becomes an exercise in patience. A harsh word becomes a lesson in silence. A failed plan becomes a chance to focus on solutions rather than cling to disappointment. These challenges are not pleasant, yet they are the gym where your mind is strengthened, and after enough training sessions, you find yourself steadier, no longer so easily swept into emotional storms. Calmness is not a luxury reserved for the fortunate few. It is a path open to all. It requires discipline, awareness, and daily repetition. And when you choose training over resignation, you uncover a quiet power, the ability to govern yourself before attempting to govern the world. 2. Impulsive reactions and their cost. Almost all of us have acted in haste, striking back in anger or anxiety, only to regret it soon after. You receive an email that feels insulting, and minutes later, you hit send on a sharp reply. Reading it again, you realize you went too far, yet there is no way to take it back. Or in an argument, one careless remark wounds someone close, leaving a rift that is hard to heal. In those moments, we often excuse ourselves by saying we only spoke our truth, But in reality, we acted without reason. We simply handed the wheel to emotion. And whenever emotion drives, the cost is always higher than we imagine. An outburst carries the illusion of power. In that instant, you feel strong, as though justice has been claimed or your pride defended. But in truth, you have surrendered your freedom. You no longer chose your action. You merely reacted like a puppet pulled by strings outside yourself. That is not strength, but dependence. The Stoics recognized this long ago. Epictetus warned that no one can make you angry unless you allow it. Yet when you lash out, you hand others the key to your mind. One word, one gesture, and they can drag you into their storm. Look closely at modern life. Social media is the battlefield of impulsive emotion. A single comment sparks hours of heated exchanges, draining energy into meaningless fights. At work, a hasty decision made under pressure can damage credibility, derail a project, or erode a team's trust. At home, one unguarded phrase may leave scars that time cannot erase. The cost is not only immediate regret, but also the slow erosion of relationships, opportunities, and your own peace of mind. The greater danger is that impulsiveness becomes habit. Each time you give in to anger, you carve a deeper groove in the mind. Stimulus demands instant response. That groove grows stronger, making you lose control even in trivial matters. And once you live in automatic reaction mode, you nearly forfeit the freedom to pause and ask, is this worth my peace? By contrast, when you learn to observe emotion without rushing to obey it, you open a priceless gap between stimulus and response. In that gap lies mastery. Instead of being swept by the wave of anger, you can stand firm and let it pass. That is the difference between an impulsive reaction and a conscious response. One leaves regret, the other brings growth. One tears down what you've built, the other secures its foundation. The Stoics never denied emotion. They simply reminded us that emotions are not commands. They are like guests knocking at the door. You alone decide whether to let them in. The price of impulsiveness is the loss of inner freedom, while the reward of restraint is self-command, a treasure no one can take away. And if you wish to train calmness, the first step is to see clearly the true cost of your outbursts, so you will hold tightly to mastery rather than hand it to anyone else. 3. Neuroscience and the power of breath. In moments of stress, the body reacts not only in mind, but across the entire system. Heart rate spikes, breathing shortens, muscles tighten, and the brain shifts into high alert. This is the legacy of evolution. A survival reflex that once helped our ancestors face predators or sudden dangers. The problem in modern life is that the same reflex is triggered not only by real threats, but also by a tense email, a rushed meeting, or a heated argument. The brain does not distinguish between physical danger and social pressure. It only signals that safety is at risk, driving the body into fight or flight mode. When this happens, the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, fires intensely, prompting the adrenal glands to release adrenaline and cortisol. These hormones sharpen quick reactions, but they also disable the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reason and long-term judgment. This is why, in panic or anger, we act rashly, say words we cannot retract, or make choices we later regret. Once the amygdala takes command, reason is pushed aside, and we become victims of our own biology. But we are not powerless before this mechanism. There is a simple yet profound tool that can reverse the spiral of stress: the breath. Breath is the direct bridge between body and mind, between the automatic nervous system and conscious control. When we inhale deeply and exhale slowly, the body receives the signal that the threat has passed, that safety is restored. At once, the parasympathetic nervous system, the one that calms and restores, takes over. Heart rate slows, muscles release, and most importantly, the prefrontal cortex regains control, allowing clear thought and wise decision. Many disciplines rely on this as a lifeline. Navy divers, who operate under crushing pressure, use deep breathing to steady their heartbeat in life or death situations. Professional athletes train their breath to keep from being consumed by the weight of millions watching. Surgeons know to anchor themselves in breath to keep their hands steady in tense operations. If those who face the edge of life and death can hold calm through breathing, then in daily life you and I can certainly do the same. Practice can begin simply. One well-known method is box breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold again for 4. Repeat for several rounds, and you'll notice your heart calming, thoughts clarifying, and emotions softening. The key is not duration, but choice. The moment you turn back to your breath, you reclaim command over your mind. 4. Stoic thinking. Turning obstacles into the path. In daily life, everyone hopes for smoothness. We wish work to flow, relationships to be harmonious, and plans to unfold as intended. Yet reality differs. Unexpected obstacles appear, from a failed project, a closed door of opportunity, to a rejection that leaves us disheartened. The first reaction of many is anger, complaint, or a sense of injustice. However, Stoic thought teaches that no obstacle arrives merely to destroy us. They come to test and shape us. How we face them determines whether we grow stronger or weaker. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "What stands in the way becomes the way." This is not empty comfort, but a practical principle. When we meet hardship, the obstacle itself becomes the chance to cultivate the very qualities required to overcome it. Betrayal teaches the difference between blind trust and discerning trust. Failure teaches persistence, creativity, and the search for another path. Rather than seeing obstacles as endings, the Stoics regarded them as natural steps on the journey. Picture a long-distance runner caught in a heavy rain mid-race. The faint-hearted will complain, calling it unfair. But one trained in Stoic thinking will see the storm as a chance to prove endurance. While others falter, he seizes the moment to forge greater resilience. The result is not just a race, but a sharpening of character. In the same way, the adversities of our own lives do not block the road. They are the road. Epictetus emphasized, "It's not what happens to you that matters, but how you respond." If we take obstacles as proof of misfortune, we collapse. But if we see them as tests to grow resilient, we rise. This does not mean denying pain or pretending everything is positive. Grief, disappointment, and anger are real. But rather than letting them bind us, we use them as energy to learn, to adjust, to grow. Practicing this mindset requires intentional questions. When hardship strikes, instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" When a plan falls apart, instead of drowning in regret, ask, "What am I freed from that no longer fits?" Through this setback, what skills or virtues can I gain? Changing the question changes the course of the mind. The Stoic way of seeing obstacles does more than help us survive. It helps us live with agency. It turns what many call failure into steps for ascent. It turns enemies into teachers, crises into chances for renewal. And once this mindset sinks in, obstacles lose their terror. We know that whatever comes, no matter how difficult, can become part of the upward path if we choose to see it not as a wall, but as the way forward. 5. Small habits, the foundation of steadiness. When people think of calmness and self-mastery, they often imagine it comes from a dramatic moment, a sudden awakening, or a life-changing event. But reality is simpler. Steadiness of mind is not built in one flash, but through hundreds of small choices repeated daily. The habits that seem trivial are in fact the first bricks of inner peace. Look at the ordinary moments of life. Stuck in a long line at the supermarket, you can choose irritation and complaint, or you can use the waiting to breathe slower. Observe your thoughts and smile with patience. In a tense conversation, you can interrupt to prove yourself right, or you can choose to listen a few seconds longer before replying. On a crowded road, you can let anger flare, or you can play gentle music and treat it as practice in letting go. These small moments, practiced with awareness, are daily training grounds for calm. The Stoics believed character is not forged in grand events, but refined in ordinary living. Seneca reminded us, no one becomes wise by chance. Wisdom or tranquility does not simply appear. It is the fruit of discipline in the smallest details. Each time you choose silence over idle words, you train the mind to know what is worth saying and what is not. Each time you go to bed early instead of drifting with a glowing screen, you teach your body to honor rest. Each time you slow down and breathe deeply in discomfort, you train your nervous system to respond differently instead of panicking. At first, these habits may be so small no one notices, but they gather strength over time. Like lifting a light weight daily, after hundreds of repetitions, the muscle changes. In the same way, each patient choice, each listening ear, each steady breath is one more repetition for the mind. And as they form into habit, you quietly build a fortress within, so that when true storms come, you are not swept away. The key is not to dismiss the smallness. One brick may seem meaningless, but hundreds together make a foundation. Calmness is the same. It is not born of one great act, but of hundreds of small acts, repeated in silence. And when you persist in these habits, you discover that steadiness no longer depends on a special moment. It has become part of who you are, nourished daily by the simplest things. 6. Environment and the people around us. None of us lives entirely apart from the world. The mind is like a vessel filled each day by what we take in. The noise of crowds, the words of conversation, the atmosphere of the workplace, even the silent presence of another nearby. This is why environment and company profoundly shape whether we remain calm or are swept into chaos. If you are surrounded by a group constantly frantic, chasing negative news or drowning in complaints, soon your mind will mirror the same state. Emotions spread faster than we think, like smoke in a room that makes all who enter struggle to breathe. By contrast, if you spend time near those who stay rational, speak gently, and handle problems with composure, you naturally absorb their way of responding. Merely watching a calm friend in crisis is enough to prove that peace is not an illusion, it can exist in reality. Carl Jung once compared the meeting of two personalities to a chemical reaction. If there is interaction, both are transformed. This means every relationship leaves a mark. If you spend much time with the easily agitated, their mark pulls you toward unrest. But if you seek those who are steady and clear-minded, their stability seeps into you. You learn not only from their words, but from their silences, from how they handle failure, from how they breathe evenly in tension. In practice, environment is not only people, but also what we consume each day. A constant stream of alarming news can unsteady the mind. A cluttered living space can feed inner disorder. By contrast, a tidy workspace, a morning shielded from phone distractions, or a habit of reading instead of scrolling, these small factors nurture inner peace. The Stoics often reminded us, while we cannot choose everything that happens, we can choose who we keep close and what we allow into the mind. Marcus Aurelius once asked himself, "Am I becoming like the things I spend my time with each day?" That question is timeless. It calls us to reflect. Do we live in an atmosphere of haste or of calm? Whose voices are we letting inside? If you wish to cultivate tranquility, begin with your environment. This does not mean avoiding every negative person, often that is impossible, but it means you need anchors of stability for balance. Seek those who can pass on resilience, conversations that open new perspectives, and spaces where you can breathe deeply. When the surroundings support you, your calmness is not only preserved, but multiplied. 7. The pause, the power of slowing down. There is a detail that seems small, yet determines how we live and respond under pressure. The pause. In moments of provocation, insult, or sudden events, instinct urges us to react at once. The body tenses, the heart races, the mind floods with words and impulses ready to break free. Here, if we rush, we fall into the spiral of impulsive reaction, but if we pause, even for a few seconds, we reclaim the power of choice instead of letting the situation dictate us. A pause can be as simple as one deep breath before replying to harsh words. It can be setting the phone down instead of firing back at an upsetting message. It can be stepping outside for air instead of prolonging an argument at its peak. These small moments of slowing down do not weaken us, they give us strength. For in the pause, emotion subsides, reason has time to return, and clarity emerges. The Stoics long emphasized mastery of response. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you that matters, but how you respond." To respond rather than react, we need the pause. It is the bridge between instinct and choice. When you resist the first impulse, you create space to ask, "Does this truly matter? Where will my response lead?" Such questions cannot surface in haste. They grow only in the stillness of slowing down. In modern life, the pause is more precious than ever. Phone notifications swarm, emails pour in, tasks pile up, and we build habits of instant reaction. We think speed equals efficiency, yet many errors are born from haste. A message sent in anger can destroy a relationship. A rushed decision at work can cost an entire project. If we slowed down just a few minutes, we would see the larger picture instead of being trapped in fragments. The pause is also the birthplace of wisdom. As the tide of emotion recedes, hidden truths appear. We see that not everyone who insults us hates us. Sometimes they are in pain, venting their own burden. We see that what looked enormous is only a small ripple in the long current of life. And we see that the wisest response is sometimes silence, preserving peace within. In practice, the pause can be trained daily by taking 3 breaths before speaking, by rewriting an email and leaving it overnight before sending, by stepping out of the room for a few minutes before making a crucial decision. These small acts teach the mind not to rush. Once formed into habit, they follow us naturally into the most stressful moments without effort. 8. Patience, a rare weapon in an age of urgency. In today's world, where everything moves at breakneck speed, patience feels like a luxury. We are used to pressing a button for instant answers, ordering and receiving the same day, unlocking a phone for instant entertainment. The entire system is built for immediate gratification, and because of this, people lose the ability to wait, and with it, the essential training of the mind. Patience. For the Stoics, patience is not just a moral virtue, but a weapon of survival keeping us steady in an urgent age. Patience is not passivity or resignation. It is the strength of deliberate slowing, the ability to see beyond the moment into the larger picture. When a plan is delayed, the impatient grow irritable, force the process, and often make poor choices. The patient knows some results bloom only in their own time, beyond force. Like a seed, no matter how much water you pour or how you tug at its leaves, it will not grow faster. Every process has its rhythm, and patience is the respect of that rhythm. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that time is a river, ever flowing, and all things come and go according to nature. The message: do not fight the current, let it move, and learn to walk with its rhythm instead of resisting. In modern terms, this means waiting for the right opportunity rather than leaping at whatever glitters. It means giving skills the time to mature instead of demanding instant mastery. It means accepting that inner growth cannot be achieved overnight, but only through thousands of patient moments with oneself. Patience is also a shield against manipulation. When someone tries to provoke you, they count on your instant reaction. If you flare up, you fall into their trap. But if you remain patient, letting their words pass without response, you keep control. The same applies at work. When markets shift or pressure rises, many rush to change direction, but it is the patient, those who analyze, wait, and act at the right time who endure. The truth is, patience is not born in crises. It is trained in the small moments of daily life. Each time you let someone finish their story without interrupting, you practice patience. Each time you allow a plan to unfold instead of forcing speed, you build composure. Each time you breathe deeply instead of snapping back in debate, you teach the mind that slowing down is not weakness, but power. In a world that worships speed, patience becomes a rare advantage. It keeps you from being swept by the rush of the crowd, gives you space to think and the freedom to choose wisely. Above all, patience grants freedom. You are no longer pulled by the pressure to act at once, you act when ready. This is how patience becomes a weapon, quiet, steady, yet razor-sharp, protecting the mind against the frenzy of an urgent age. 9. Preparing before the storm. None of us is exempt from life's storms. They may come as loss, failure, financial crisis, illness, or sudden betrayal. We never know when they will strike, but one truth is certain: they will. And when the storm rages, it is too late to begin learning calm. Preparation must be made in the days of peace, so that when the winds rise, we can stand firm. The Stoics always stressed that peace is not a gift of fortune, but the fruit of steady training. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You cannot control the external, but you can prepare your mind." The message is clear. Preparation is each person's duty, and no one can do it for you. Just as an athlete does not wait for the day of competition to start training, we cannot wait until disaster strikes to seek calm. Preparation begins with daily habits. When you choose silence instead of lashing out in a small quarrel, you train the mind in control. When you wait patiently in a long line without irritation, you train your nervous system to slow down. When you breathe deeply instead of reacting rashly, You build a reserve of composure to draw upon when the true storm arrives. These small acts are the quiet rehearsals for the day they will be most needed. Think of firefighters. They do not wait for the flames before learning to use the hose. They train in quiet days so that when the fire breaks, body and mind act rightly without hesitation. Likewise, we must practice calm in small trials so that in greater trials, our first reflex is not panic but composure. Preparation also means cultivating the right mindset. If we expect life to be smooth, we will always be shocked by hardship. But if we accept difficulty as an inevitable part of existence, we greet it with less turmoil. Seneca wrote, "The blow foreseen falls lighter." This is not pessimism, but readiness. In practice, preparing for storms also means protecting mental resources. You strengthen the body so it does not fail under strain. You read, reflect, and journal to feed the mind with clarity. You nurture healthy relationships to have anchors when needed. All these are foundations of resilience. Life's storms are inescapable, but how we face them is in our hands. If you prepare beforehand, when they come, you are not swept into chaos, but stand on solid ground. And in those moments, you see that preparation itself is a hidden strength, enabling you not only to endure the storm, but to grow from it. 10. Turning calmness into a way of life. Calmness should not be seen merely as a skill to be used in moments of crisis, but as a daily way of living. If we treat composure only as an emergency tool, we will remember it only after turmoil has struck, when in truth, every ordinary moment is an opportunity to practice and embody it. To make calmness a way of life means letting it flow into every small choice, from how we begin the morning to how we end the day. A calm person is not one who avoids emotion or denies challenge, but one who carries clarity and intention in every act. They know how to pause before answering, how to breathe deeply when tension rises, and how to choose silence when words add no value. They do not allow the external world to shape their inner state. Instead, they let their inner steadiness shape the world around them. Their presence itself becomes an imprint others feel safe. Trust grows, and many wish to follow their example. To make calmness a way of life, we must train consistency until it becomes habit. It can begin with a few minutes of morning meditation, journaling to sift through emotions, or simply paying attention to the breath when under pressure. These small acts, repeated daily, gradually shape a new style of living where calmness is no longer a forced effort but a natural essence. And when calmness becomes part of life itself, we realize we do not need to wait for storms to prove our strength. The quiet, steady presence we cultivate each day is already the foundation helping us live a life not pulled by chaos, but one where we actively create order and meaning in every circumstance. Looking back, I see that calmness never came from waiting for life to grow easier, but from forcing myself to sit still amid the chaos. There were days when a single careless remark would irritate me, or a minor change would stir anxiety. I once thought these were natural reactions beyond my control. But the deeper I went into Stoic philosophy, the more I understood. Emotions are not enemies, they are signals. The question is how I choose to act upon those signals. I began with small habits, breathing deeply when my heart raced, leaving an email overnight before replying, choosing silence when I knew words would only fuel tension. At first, these acts seemed trivial, yet over time they changed the way I saw the world. I saw more clearly that calmness is not something that arrives when life is gentle, but something built step by step in daily living. And this gave me a quiet trust. If I train a little each day, when the true storm arrives, I will not be swept away so easily. If you found these reflections meaningful, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next content. This is not only a way to support the channel, but also a small commitment to yourself, to keep cultivating calmness and intentional living each day. And remember, calmness is not just a skill, but a silent strength that allows you to live fully and freely, even when storms break upon you. See you in the next video.